Unrehearsed Creepypasta Narrations, Part 42. This is story Shards. Don't know what it's about. It is by N. Ravenel Bard. Estimated reading time 31 minutes. So I'll probably split this into two parts. So this will be the first half of this story. But yeah, Shards by N. Ravenel Bard. Have you ever heard of urban spelunking? Or maybe urban exploration? It's really awesome. Like modern day adventure. You explore cool old buildings, and no one has been in forever. It can be kind of like playing an online MMORPG, in that you can run into all sorts of danger. Sometimes you have to dodge security guards, which is really bizarre. I mean, some of these buildings have just been sitting empty for years. Most of them heavily tagged. Sometimes you risk running into those same taggers. And then there are the squatters, some of who look like actual orcs. It is awesome. Total adrenaline rush. You can call me Sherry, professional urban explorer. I'm currently enrolled at Colorado State and working on my business degree. I was lucky enough to get an athletics scholarship for track and field, but I also play on the women's soccer team. Go Rams! Because I don't have to work like some students, I have more than enough time to go exploring. We, of course, have our own club. It's shared with the geo-coaching crowd because we're so similar. We share cool places to go and explore, and of course pass along tips over the areas we explore. That's how I learned about the old Carnival Hotel in Bivowick, Colorado? I guess it's back in the 1980s. Japanese corporations were grabbing up and starting companies in America. I don't know the original company's name. For some reason, there isn't much information on our group's site. But this company decided they were going to create the Las Vegas of Colorado. I guess they were going to bribe a bunch of the state's politicians in order to make gambling legal. They bought up land along the interstate and were going to create a city named Bivowick. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but Bivouac. They had even completed a carnival-themed hotel, when the whole project ran into financial difficulty and was eventually dissolved. Apparently, the Carnival cruise ship company sued over the use of the name, amongst other problems. Well, then you can just change the name, right? They apparently only completed the one hotel and a few other buildings, which are all now owned by the state and just lie there empty. There were some photos posted by other explorers, which excited me. Apparently the hotel had been completed and even housed a few guests before it closed. There were awesome pictures of actual carnival games run in the hotel lobby and a roller coaster that had been under construction. It was supposed to have started on the top of the hotel, so the ride began with a death plunge down the side of the building. How awesome that would have been. Apparently there was also supposed to have been a house of mirrors. I saw one picture of the door to that feature. The padlock on the door had been cut with bolt cutters, and you could see a few mirrors inside. The person who had posted the picture left a caption saying, "Just don't go in there. Really easy to get lost." And I felt claustrophobic the entire time, like somebody was following me. Couldn't get out fast enough. According to the group's site's details on Bivowick, a security guard drives by at noon once a day. So long as you close the door and they can't see a car, they didn't even bother to come in. I couldn't resist, so I made plans to visit the hotel as soon as possible. In particular, I wanted to explore that house of mirrors, so that I could boast online. I took the former explorer's notes as a personal challenge that I was more than willing to accept. He only got halfway through before getting scared and retreating. I had developed a reputation of being a fearless explorer, and I wanted the bragging rights of being the first one finish The House of Mirrors. The drive was far enough, but I put off my trip until spring break of that year. I plan to combine it with camping trip just in case. It's always good to have a cover story in case something goes wrong. Having a reason to be in the area is always a plus. Urban exploration often runs up against the law, although it seems silly to be charging people with trespassing on a building that's been abandoned for 40 years. I packed all of my usual stuff. I doubted I'd need the drone for this one, but I decided to pack it anyway. I might be able to catch some cool Colorado sunset shots. For the hardcore urban explorer, you might be mistaken for a mountain climber with everything you take along, except for the bolt cutters. Not many locks and chains on a mountaintop. There is, of course, a first aid kit with bandages and antiseptic. I keep a tightly wound length of nylon rope, a piton, and even a climbing harness, something you need to go down an elevator shaft to reach other floors. Of course, you take everything you need to survive too, just like on a camping trip. That includes bear spray, good for both bears and the occasional insane squatter. I had a run-in before the pandemic with this one old man who scared me to death. I won't go into details, but after that I always made certain I had bear spray or a taser. I also wear tear-resistant clothing and carry heavy-duty gloves. Helps with scrapes, bruises, and avoiding tetanus shots. Those are the worst. I hate needles. I expect most people do. When I finally set out during spring break, I felt confident that I was beyond prepared. I had researched my target thoroughly on the university computers, because there's less evidence directly linking you. Curiously, I still had been unable to find the name of the original company, which should have been public information. I've encountered that problem before, when trying to find records from before the internet was really a thing. Since I didn't want to go to a government office to make an official records request, I would have to hope to find some paperwork at the hotel. But I did manage to get the building's blueprints, which I of course put on my smartphone. Emphasis on smart. That's me. Or that's what I thought at the time. Because if I had known then what I know now, the last place I ever would have gone to was that old Carnival Hotel in Bivalve, Colorado. Colorado is a gloriously beautiful in the springtime, so I took my time driving to the closest camping ground to Bivalve. My plan was to camp for 2 days before slipping away to explore my real target. By then I would have established an alibi by telling the rangers I planned to hike further into the park to camp overnight. Smart alibis are a must for the dedicated urban explorer enthusiast. I enjoyed nature for a few days before breaking camp, just past 1 in the morning on the third day, and slipped out of the park. That morning I would have breakfast at a small town that amounted to little more than a gas station and a restaurant before driving to Baalbek nearby. Nothing ever goes according to plan, but that's half of the excitement when exploring old buildings, and in this case it was the weather. Shortly before I took the ramp off the interstate to Baalbek, it began to storm. I knew it was coming because of the lightning that flashes that, be- that began shortly after breakfast. For me, it was really as much about the adrenaline rush as the discovery. So for me, the storm was actually a plus. My last girlfriend complained constantly that I was an adrenaline junkie. I got her to come along once with me, and all she did was complain the entire time. That's when I realized we weren't really a thing and broke up with her. If there wasn't pot and alcohol involved, she really wasn't interested in something, and I really don't do either. I do like to party now and again, but pot just messes with me too much. The last thing I need is to be hallucinating while breaking and entering. Even though it's legalized in Colorado, the pot, not the breaking and entering. You really can't trust something handed to you at a party, especially if it's a guy giving it to you. By the time I crept my beat up, third hand old Subaru Justy hatchback, why did that feel like a fucking tongue twister? Into the rear employee parking lot of the hotel, The rain had begun to come down. My trusty Justy, as I like to call it, please don't ever call it again. Please don't ever call it that again. That sounds so lame. Was primer gray and you know? Why? Which was the perfect camouflage for these conditions. Yeah. Even if the security company showed up unexpectedly and actually drove around the facility, I doubt they'd spot my car where I parked her. I'll be honest, if I was a security guard or a stormy, I'd be like, fuck it, I'm not going today. Like, yeah, I drove to the thing. Yeah, sure. I'm going to stay inside and just watch the rain from the comfort of my house, drink some ice cold Pepsi. And my phone logged out. Why does creepypasta.com just sort of kick you off after a while? Like I said, they probably want to try to keep the servers from getting too full. Okay, we'll just call that apart, and I'll restart the next part whenever I have it reloaded on my phone. Bye, guys.